morning everyone and welcome to my Doorstep. I wonder if you can remember how you felt at the very beginning of lockdown. One vivid memory that really sticks in my mind was going to bed one night filled with fear and apprehension. Donavan was stranded in Zimbabwe. I'd just listened to the 10 o'clock news that was filled with tragedy and despair. And when I went to bed that night, my mind was just full of fear and dread. And as I tossed and turned, I asked God lots of what-if questions. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if that doesn't happen? Well, the next morning I woke to the sound of the most beautiful bird song. It seemed that every sparrow in Preston had gathered outside my bedroom window. And at that moment, a verse came into my mind and peace flooded my soul. And that verse was Mathew chapter 10 and verse 29. Are not two sparrows sold for a copper coin? Not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will. But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Do not fear, therefore. You are of more value than many sparrows. To me, that was a gentle reminder that even in the midst of such uncertainty, God is worthy of our greatest trust and our deepest confidence. And yet I'm sure you would agree that in our human frailty, we are so prone to become fearful, anxious, and worried. God understands that, and He tells us repeatedly, do not fear, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. The wonderful thing is that when God tells us not to fear, He also gives us a reason not to fear. A lovely example of this is found in Isaiah 41 and verse 10, where God says to His people, do not fear, for I am with you. What an amazing reality to remind ourselves of this morning. The God of the universe is with you right now and will be wherever you go. If you are a child of God, you can claim that promise and be assured that He is personally interested in every single one of your hurts and concerns. He understands your deepest longings and your deepest sorrows. What an amazing miracle, the abiding presence of God in your life and for every moment of your life. And you know, we need not even ask for His presence to be with us. He has already promised it. We only need to remember the reality of it. He is right there with you, ready and able to comfort, encourage, strengthen and provide. There to supply you with His divine wisdom, grace and power. Isn't that just wonderful? God is with us. Maybe you've come across at some time that little verse that people often used to hang in their homes. It went like this: Christ is the head of this house, the unseen guest at every meal, the silent listener to every conversation. You know, that verse looks lovely hanging on a pretty little plaque on the wall. But you know, if we really believe that, it will change our lives. It will change the way we speak, the way we act, the way we think. It will change our homes. It will change our churches. It will change our workplaces. You see, the assurance of God's abiding presence isn't there just to be a comfort to us, but also a challenge. As a young Christian, I was given this very wise advice. Live your life as though God could hear every conversation you have, knows every thought you think, perceives every attitude and motive, and sees every place you go, because He does. And the more we are aware of His presence in our daily lives, the more our relationship with Him will take on greater significance. I have friends who are avid Liverpool United supporters. They love to go to Anfield and support their beloved team. And they've often commented on how moving it is to stand and sing with 50,000 other fans those famous lyrics, "You'll never walk alone." And you see, those words are an encouragement to players and fans alike. And the sentiment has meaning for everyone, because each of us is made for community. Isolation and loneliness are amongst the most painful of human experiences. And maybe over the last 6 months we have come to realise that more than ever before. And yet be encouraged, because as a child of God, you need never fear abandonment. Even if people turn on us, friends forsake us, or circumstances separate us from loved ones, we are never alone. In Hebrews 13 verse 5, God says, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." And you know, these aren't just words that offer an empty sentiment, but rather the very promise of God Himself to each of His precious children. With Christ in our hearts and lives, we will never walk alone. Do you know Christ in your heart and life today? Then be assured you will never be alone. Amen.